insane new creeper farm for Minecraft Bedrock Edition, redesigned from the ground up to be super efficient in the Minecraft 1.21 update for the new spawning mechanics. This creeper farm is super simple and easy to build, barely has any redstone at all, and can be expanded to be any size that you want. It produces up to 4,800 gunpowder an hour, but you can start off small and build up more of the farm later. This is also a true creeper only farm, meaning that you'll never get a spider or any other mob spawning, just creepers. This creeper farm might seem like magic, but it's actually just really clever mechanics. The creepers spawn on these ice platforms right here, and because the only solid blocks around are these path blocks, they're going to try and walk towards these, meaning that they're going to fall directly down this hole straight into our kill chamber. We're using some water and a minecart at the bottom here so that they don't take any fall damage, and that puts them directly into the kill chamber where they die basically instantly. All the items get sent to our storage system, and all the experience goes directly to the player. You might have seen some other creeper farms that would use snow golems or cats along the edges to either attract or scare the creepers, and while that can be efficient, it can also take a very long time to install, especially if you are using cats, whereas this farm is literally just some ice platforms and like one redstone line down at the bottom. It is extremely easy to build. If you have a lot of these mobs sitting around, it can also cause a little bit of lag, whereas with this new design, there's basically no lag at all because there's nothing happening. So each side of this farm produces around 2,400 gunpowder per hour, and if you build the entire thing, both sides, then it would get 4,800 per hour and a ton of experience. The full-scale farm looks massive, but remember, you can build just one side of it, and you don't even need to build all the platforms. You can start small and then upgrade your farm later on to get better rates. So using the farm is really simple. You just go up this little bubble elevator right here. This takes you to the AFK spot. You stand right here in between these glass panes. Flick the lever to turn on the farm, and then simply hold yourself a looting 3 sword. This will apply the looting effect to all the creepers that are killed inside your farm, giving you significantly more rates. All the items will get delivered directly to your storage system, all the experience will come directly to you, and you can simply stand here and AFK for as long as you like. As you can see, we have some experience coming up the bubble elevator here, and we also have a roof directly above us, that way no phantoms will ever spawn, so you truly can just stand here for as long as you want and rake in the gunpowder. This farm was designed and built by Mike Homer. Huge thank you to them for letting me do a showcase and tutorial on this insane build. Definitely check out Mike's channel for a lot more insane bedrock tech. Link to their channel is down below, and of course make sure to show him some love in the comments. To give you a better idea of how this farm works, we're using ice in here as the spawning platforms, since mobs can spawn on this but they don't pathfind to it. We have to use the regular ice, the one that you can actually see through. Packed ice does not work, neither does blue ice. Do not use either of these in your farm. It will not work. You have to use the regular ice blocks, the ones that can melt. So inside of here, we're using a bunch of trapdoors on the floors, spaced 2 blocks apart. This prevents all these spiders from spawning since they're just a little bit too large. All the trapdoors prevent those guys from spawning. The path blocks and the slabs on the edge also prevent spiders from spawning too. We're using buttons on the ceiling to prevent the tall mobs like zombies and skeletons from spawning, because these act exactly like trapdoors, but they are a lot cheaper. With the trapdoors and buttons, that means that only creepers can spawn in here, so you never get any spiders or other mobs. We're using the creepers' own pathfinding abilities against them, so these guys will naturally want to walk somewhere, and the only place that they can walk to is this edge right over here. In order to get onto this little platform, they're gonna walk into this area thinking that they can stand on these path blocks, but instead they fall right on down into our minecart, which puts them directly into the kill chamber. And from there, we just have a Trident killer with impaling 5 to kill these guys instantly, and we're good to go. We have 16 spawning platforms to get the maximum number of spawning spaces inside of the sim 4 spawning radius, and as you can see, that's basically all there is to it. We also just got a big old roof on the top of this thing to block out the sun so that they spawn during the day. And we're also using some buttons inside of the water sources here to prevent drowns, squid, and fish from spawning inside of our water streams. The only downside to using this method is that sometimes the creepers will just stand here for a few seconds before deciding to pathfind to their doom, but generally it's pretty quick. So if you see one just kind of standing in here not doing anything, don't worry about it. It doesn't really impact anything. Because we're using this pathfinding mechanic, you kind of have to build the farm as shown. So these on the edges here have to be slabs, these have to be path blocks, these have to be ice blocks, and you have to build out of glass glass down here as well. The materials that you'll need for this build are fairly straightforward. So just for the mineral AFK spot, you're going to need everything in this chest right here. You will be needing 4 impaling 5 tridents to get the best rates. You also need a looting sword, and you'll need a silk touch pickaxe. To build one side of the farm, you're going to need everything in these 5 double chests right here. That includes all of these basic materials right here. As you can see, not very much redstone, it's all pretty cheap, but you'll need an entire double chest of regular ice blocks, an entire double chest of buttons, some more buttons, and more ice. And then you'll also need all of these materials as well. We're going to be using path blocks in the build, but you can just collect dirt and then turn it into path blocks later, so make sure you have some shovels. Since there's so many wooden materials in this build, I'd highly recommend that you build yourself a bamboo farm. That way you don't need to manually chop any trees, and that'll get you all the wood that you need for all your buttons and all of your trapdoors, and overall save you a ton of time. There's a full materials list down in the description for your convenience, and remember, this is for one side of the build. If you plan on building the entire thing, you'll have to get double the materials. And of course, there's also a world download in the description for you to check out. When it comes to choosing a location to build your creeper farm, make sure to avoid mushroom islands and river biomes, since no hostile mobs will spawn there. If you're looking to get the best rates from your farm, you need to build it over a frozen ocean biome or an ice spikes, which look like these two right here. But don't build it over the frozen plains biome, which is this one, because no hostile mobs spawn there either. You can build this over pretty much any other biome that you want to, like a plains biome or a forest, but your rates are going to be slightly lower. So if you can find a good iceberg biome or ice spikes, then definitely build it there. I would recommend that you find the roughest center of the biome. That way it's guaranteed to be the correct biome. If you build it on the edges, you might have something like a river creeping in there, and that might decrease the rates of your farm. So you need to go at least 48 blocks above the ground. So if you're on a nice flat area like this one, that's going to mean that your platform's at Y111. Once you've got your platform built up at least 48 blocks above the surface down below you, then you need to find the nearest chunk border. So there's a bunch of different ways to find chunk borders. I'll have a link to a tutorial in the upper right and down below. So once you've built up your platform and you've found your chunk borders, you need to move your platform into the northwest corner of the chunk. To do this, you need to find your direction. I'll be using a sunflower, but of course there's 100 different ways to find your direction. These always face towards the east, so if you turn left, that direction is north, and from there you can find the northwest corner. So you just need to move your little platform into the northwest corner of the chunk. We're going to be AFKing in the very corner of the chunk, so it's very important that you find your chunk borders. You also want to leave your pillar in until the end of the build, because you need to build downwards slightly below this platform's layer. So once you've figured out where your chunk borders are and you've moved your platform into the corner, we need to place a soul sand down by 1 block in the very corner of a chunk right here. So now you need to figure out what direction is which. So put down yourself a sunflower. We're going to be building our mob farm to the north, and then we're going to be building another one to the south as well. So once you've figured out what direction is which, we're going to expand our little AFK platform. So we're just going to put down some glass over here, and we're going to go out by 4 blocks. On the 5th block out, we're going to install our little 3x3 of double chests, and this is going to be your storage for the creeper farm. Of course, you can expand this a little bit later on. So now that we have our little platform installed, we need to build the bubble column going up to the AFK spot. So we need to go upwards by 24 blocks. We're going to start at this block right here. So count up by 24. That is 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all the way up to 24. So if your lower platform is at Y111, this one up here should be at Y135, and this is where your AFK spot's going to be. Now, this is going to be a bubble column, so we need to build this up on all 4 sides. So just go ahead and fill in all of these pillars going all the way up. And that's what it should look like once it's built up. Now, at the bottom, we need to do a couple of things. So we're going to put in 1 more glass block right here. We're going to put in a temporary block to either side of this, so that way the water doesn't spill out. And then we're going to put in a couple of fence gates right here as our entrance. We're going to use this bubble column to get up to our AFK spot, and the experience is also going to be going up this to our AFK spot as well. So now if you step into here and just place down yourself a bunch of ice blocks going all the way up to the top, you can mine those without silk touch, and that will install water in your entire bubble stream. So once you get up to the top here, you can simply mine that without your silk touch going all the way down, and that'll turn into a bubble column. And once you get to the bottom, it should just turn right into a bubble and send you back up to the top. Now, once you're at the very top here, place in yourself a trapdoor right above the middle, and this is what you're going to be standing on. So once you have this installed, I would recommend that you go ahead and expand your little AFK platform to at least a 5x5. That way you have some room to work with up here. And then you want to go ahead and refine your chunk borders. So just go ahead and get your armor stand or your texture pack or whatever your method is. Basically, you should have your bubble column in the corner of a chunk, and then we're going to be putting some glass panes in the opposite corner of the chunk. That way, when you stand in this corner, you're right between all 4 chunks, and this is going to give you the best efficiency. Now we're going to be moving down into the lower section, installing the water stream going towards the north for the north part of the farm. So we need to grab our packed ice, and we need to go north by 28 blocks from the side of this soul sand right here. So this is 1 block right here, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and count all the way out by 28. So once you have it built out by 28 blocks, this is what it should look like. And now we're going to go out to the end over here and build out to the left by 7 blocks. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And now we need to build to the right by another 7. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And now we're going to build up the Trident killers on either side. So we're going to start with the left side Trident killer. You want to come over to this edge right here and build out with a couple of slabs right here. And then we need a couple of solid blocks down in these locations right here. We're going to put a lever on the side of that solid block, and then we're going to build out around this with some glass blocks in these 3 locations. Place in yourself a fence post right here, and that's basically what it should look like. Now go ahead and place in yourself 2 water sources in there, and then 2 activator rails in there. They should get powered from your lever right here. We're going to place a chest minecart on that back one, and then a regular minecart in front of it, and that should shake. If you get inside of that, it should just kick you out of it immediately. And now we're going to place in some more glass blocks in all of these locations right here. Make sure that you have one above your chest minecart, and then we're just going to fill in all these locations. Build this up by an extra layer in all these spots. And now if we go ahead and click on that minecart, we should get put onto this piece of ice right here. And now we need to do that same exact thing on the right side, but it's mirrored. So this is what the base module on the right should look like. As you can see, it's exactly the same as the left one. It's just mirrored. So once you have that in place, again, place in your 2 water sources, put your activator rails in there, chest minecart on the right, regular minecart on the left. That should be shaking due to the activator rails. And now we're simply going to put in a layer of glass in all of these areas, right above the fence, and then 1 more layer of glass. And now if we click on that minecart, we should end up on this piece of packed ice. Now that we have the base of both of our Trident killers installed, we're going to go ahead and install all of the water streams. So we need a line of glass on this back wall right here. Go ahead and get another line of glass on the front wall, and then 1 more right here. This is basically just going to contain all of your water. And once you have it installed just like that, then we're going to continue both of these lines all the way to the very front of the build, and it should look a little bit something like that. Now we're going to remove our temporary block from right there and replace that with a button, and then go ahead and place in another line of glass to the opposite side, and that will contain the entire water stream. And once you have all your walls in place, this is what it should look like. And now we're going to install the water streams. So go to the left side over here. We're going to place in 1 water bucket, and then put a button inside of that as well. And then go to the right, 1 water bucket with a button inside of it. Now once you're in the middle here, we want to place in a fence gate right here with a button to either side of that. 1 water source inside of that fence gate. So now we're just going to follow this along. At the end of this, we're going to place in 2 buttons and then a water source. Go to the end of that one, place in yourself 2 buttons right there, water source. And then once you get to the end over here, then you need to place in 2 buttons right here and a water source on that one. So this one should be 2 blocks of water. And this is what all the water streams should look like. And now we need to cover up all of our water streams. So we're going to start on the back left corner over here. We're going to place in 1 honey block right here. Make sure that you have a gap right here for the creepers to actually get ejected from the minecarts. We're going to place in 1 glass block there, and then a line of glass blocks going to the opposite corner. And remember to put in your honey block right there and 1 glass block right there. Now we're going to go ahead and place in a line of glass blocks above our entire mineral water stream, going all the way back to the beginning. And now we're going to build up the actual Trident killers themselves. So come over to the honey block. We're going to place down ourselves a trapdoor. Now, when you're placing in this trapdoor, make sure that you are facing south. So the sunflower should be facing to your left. And that's because we need the trapdoor to be like this with the hinge on the south side. It's actually important because reasons. Once you have that in place, we're going to go ahead and put in a couple of glass blocks right here behind the trapdoor. So there should be a 2 block of air in here just for the creepers to stand in there. And now we're going to place in another trapdoor with the hinge on the top part. And now we're going to place in a couple more glass blocks in this area just to help keep our creepers in line with that minecart. And you need to do the same thing on the other side, of course. And this is what it should look like on the other side. As you can see, hinges on the top and hinges on the south side. And now it's time for the redstone line. So we're going to place a lever on this block and then 5 pieces of redstone dust going out. Place in yourself a repeater and then just place redstone dust until it turns off. And as you can see, the signal has ran out right here. So now we're going to place in a repeater, and you should have just a couple pieces of redstone dust until you get to the very end. So we're going to be placing in a comparator right here. Make sure that's on subtract mode, so that little light right there should be on. And now we need in a block right here, and just redstone looping around to the side. That should be pulsing, and now we're going to place a redstone going into that trapdoor, and redstone going into that trapdoor right there. And that is all the redstone that you need for your Trident killers. And now for the Trident killer on switch, if you want to, you could be super lazy and just have a lever literally right there, and you can just turn it on before you go up. But we're going to do something a little bit more fancy. We're going to remove that, and we're going to place in a couple of glass blocks in this area right here. Now, I'd recommend that you just build up a 2-wide pillar of glass going all the way up to the top, because this is going to make it much easier to build. So once you're at the very top, place in yourself a redstone lamp with a lever on it, flick that, and then we're going to have our first piece of redstone right here. I'd recommend that you put a piece of carpet above that as well, because it looks nice and clean, and then you can expand your floor out if you want to, and you won't fall down. Now we're going to have a glass block going down in this area, and we're going to just remove some blocks as we go down. Basically, we're going to be stair-stepping this redstone all the way down until it runs out of signal. And as you can see, it's ran out of signal right here, so what we're going to do is remove these couple pieces of redstone and put in a solid block right here, redstone above it, repeater coming out of that block and going into a solid block right here. Make sure to put a button on top of that so nothing spawns right there. And now we need a glass block right here, redstone dust, and then we're just going to keep stair-stepping this down. And once you get down to the bottom, you can just loop that around the corner into your main redstone line, and that should turn on your outer Trident killers. And here's a side view of what your redstone elevator should look like. Ultimately, it doesn't really matter what it looks like as long as the redstone goes down. And now we're going to install the water stream that delivers items directly to your storage system. So this is why you still need your pillar from the original part of the build, because you're going to need to build downwards. So simply bridge out from your pillar. So we're going to place in a couple of glass blocks on the very last piece of water from this water source right here. So just 2 pieces of glass right there, and then a piece of packed ice. We're going to go out by a total of 7 packed ice towards our chest. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And then on the 8th block, we should have ourselves a soul sand, and we should be right behind our chests. Now we're simply going to wrap around this entire ice stream with some glass blocks right here to contain all of our water. And it should look a little something like that. Now come to the beginning over here, and we're going to place in a couple more glass blocks right here. Place in yourself a button right here, and then we need in a glass block on this side and one on the outside edge as well. So now you can actually go ahead and remove that piece of packed ice, let that water flow down. This is going to act as an item sorter right here, so all items that come from your farm will fall down, but all the experience will go right over top and up to the player. So once you have that installed, place in yourself a water source right here, a button inside of that water source, and that should flow until your soul sand. We're going to put in another button right there, and then simply cover up this entire thing with some glass blocks. And now we're just going to build up the pillars around our bubble column until we get to right above our chests. And once you've built up, you should be right at the top layer of your chests, as you can see here. And then you just need to fill up your entire bubble column with some ice blocks and mine them, and this entire thing will be full of water. Once you have your bubble column installed, we're just going to go over by a few glass blocks and then place hoppers behind all of our chests. Make sure they're facing into the backs of the chest, and you will need to crouch in order to place those. And now we're simply going to encase the rest of this thing in some glass blocks. So go ahead and bring all of these out to the very end. One more glass block on the edge, and then simply place in a water source directly above your bubble column there. That'll flow over and take all of your items directly into your storage system. And now you just need one last layer of glass directly above all of that. Now, if you notice that things are spawning in your bubble columns and you don't want that to happen, you can simply put a solid block right here and then just like a torch on top of it, and that'll stop it from happening. And now it's time for the grindy part of the build. We need to start installing all of the spawning platforms. We're going to start by mapping out the size of the spawning platforms. So going off of this left hole right here, ignore the squids. We're going to go forwards by 7 ice blocks. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And then we're going to go back by 8 ice blocks. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And you need to do that on both sides, of course. So that is our little bars installed, and now we're going to connect these two edges together into one giant square. So connect the front and connect the back as well. And now you probably guessed it, we need to fill in this entire platform with ice blocks. And that is the size of your platform. Once it's fully installed, it's going to be a total of 17 blocks wide and 16 blocks deep. So once you have your ice platform installed, do not place any light sources on this thing. It will melt and you will have to rebuild your farm. If you're having mobs spawn on this thing, then simply sleep through the night. And now we need to set up the drop chute. So we're going to go over to the left side over here, and we're going to break out these 3 ice blocks right above our drop chute. We're going to place in a trapdoor in each 3 of these locations to help guide the creepers downwards. And now we're going to place in a dirt block to the side and to that side. And we need in 1 dead coral fan on that edge right there, which will help them fall down the hole. Now we're going to place in a line of dirt on this entire left edge right here. And then we need to make this 3 blocks deep. So that is what your dirt platform should look like. Now, all of these things need to be path blocks. I'd recommend making them path blocks immediately. That way nothing spawns on them. So simply grab out your shovel and convert all that. So that is the left side installed, and we need to do the exact same thing on the right side as well. So go ahead and break out your 3 blocks right here. We're going to place in our 3 trapdoors, our dead coral fan right there, and then our pieces of dirt above those trapdoors. And then, of course, you get in your 3 layers of dirt going all the way across. Once you have either side installed properly, we're going to go ahead and put a layer of slabs at the front of the build, just right here going over the edge. That's going to help prevent spiders from spawning and creepers from escaping. And then, of course, we need to do that on the back side as well. So just 1 layer of slabs back here. And, of course, make sure that these are lower slabs. And this is what your first spawning platform should look like once you have all the basics installed. And now we need to place in the trapdoors on the floor. This is going to prevent all of your spiders from spawning. So you want to go stand directly above your comparator and place in your first trapdoor right there. And then on every 3rd block, we're going to place in another trapdoor. So there should be a 2-block gap between your trapdoors. We're going to place in the center line first. So we should have one right there, right there. In total, this is going to be a 5x5 grid of trapdoors, and that is our center line. Now we're going to place in the bottom line right here. So trapdoor there. Trapdoor there. We should have 2-block gaps between our edges and the trapdoor. And then another one on this side, and finally 1 right there. And now you don't need to actually count, because you can just go ahead and line yourself up with all the other ones. It doesn't matter what direction these trapdoors are placed in, so just go ahead and get them all in there. And this is what your grid of trapdoors should look like. On the back edge, they're going to be 1 block away from the slabs, but otherwise all the edges should be 2 blocks away. So that is the basic layout of your first spawning floor. In total, we're going to have 16 of these floors stacked right on top of each other, going all the way up to the top. Now, we're going to install the second one real quick. It's exactly identical to the first. There should be a 2-block gap between your floors, so you should be able to walk between them. All the platforms are exactly the same size. They're all exactly the same layout. All the trapdoors are in the same places, and of course, all the drop chutes are lined up with one another. So simply go ahead and re-watch the last couple minutes of this video, and that'll tell you how to build the next platform right above it. So that is our second spawning platform installed. It's directly above the first one, and if you crouch, you can actually fit directly in here because of our slabs. Now, once you've installed your second platform, you need to go back down to the one below it, and you need to place a button on the underside of every single one of these ice blocks right here. Now, luckily, there's a quick way to actually install all these, so you want to run from one edge to the other, looking at the edge of the ice block right here, and then just hold down the place button and run, and that's going to place in all the buttons really quickly for you. And once you've placed in all the buttons, I'd recommend going into third-person mode and just looking at the ceiling kind of like this, just to see if you accidentally misplaced one or missed any. You want to make sure that every single one of these has a button on it. So that is our first 2 spawning platforms installed, and now you just need to install 14 more, going all the way up. This sounds like fun, doesn't it? Now, the good thing about this farm is that you don't need to build all 16 of them at once. You can build a couple platforms, use the farm, come back later, and then build the next couple. It's going to be slightly less efficient, but you can do it. To give you some context for how tall this is going to be, this is our first 2 layers, and then every single one of these ice blocks represents where the next spawning floor is going to be going. And as you can see, that is going to be the size of all 16. Now, at the very top of this, we're going to have a glass roof above our final spawning floor. That way we can have some buttons on top of that to again only allow creepers to spawn at the top of it. And once you've built up all 16 of your spawning platforms, or at least marked out where they should go, and now we're going to build up the roof of this thing. So the first miniature roof goes right above the top layer. That's glass with some buttons underneath it. Now above the drop chutes over here, we need to break out our 2 glass blocks to the side of this, and then just place in our 3 trapdoors, and that is going to help line above our creepers. That way they drop right down the middle there. And then of course we need to do this on the other side as well. So break out the left and the right, and simply place in our 3 trapdoors, and then break out that middle glass block as well. And now the major roof that goes above this entire thing to block out the sun, that way everything can spawn during the day, is going to be going 18 blocks above this thing. So I'm going to be counting up from the corner. That's 1, 2, 3, 4. And then on the 18th block is the actual roof layer. So the first square that we're going to be making is going to be the exact same size as our ice platform down below. So just go around the edges of this thing and fill it in, so that's the same size and shape. So this first square should be 17 blocks wide, and it should be 16 blocks deep, the exact same size as our ice platforms, and lined up properly with them. And now from here, we're going to go to each corner of this build and go out by 8 blocks. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then do that on this side. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now do that on all 4 corners. And this is what your main grid should look like once you have all the corners expanded by 8 blocks. So once you've done all that, just go ahead and connect up all the corners, and this thing's going to be one gigantic square. And that's what it should look like once all of your edges are connected. And now you just need to go ahead and fill in the entire thing with solid blocks, and that's what it should look like. And now we need to go ahead and light up the roof. So I'm going to go ahead and just place torches up here. You can kind of just spam down torches or do whatever you want. It doesn't really matter. I'm going to be placing torches on every 6 blocks. So there should be 5 blocks in between them, kind of like that. Now, because this roof is slightly not the correct size, it's actually going to be a 4-block gap on the very last one of these. All the other ones are 5-block gaps. I just wanted to tell you that so that you could be bothered by it. And that's what your full roof should look like once it's complete. Once you have that installed, you can go ahead and remove your pillar, and now your mob farm is going to be active during the day. If you're standing on it, nothing's really going to spawn, so you're going to go down to your AFK spot, and once you're there, you should be seeing a ton of creepers. And as you can see, we got several all over the farm, and it only takes them a couple of seconds to figure out that they should walk directly into the kill chamber. And once they do that, they're going to end up right inside of your Trident killers. As you can see here, there's a ton of these guys dropping in, but we're not quite done with the farm yet. So now we need to install a little roof directly above the AFK spot. This will stop you from having phantom spawn, and it'll also stop the squids and stuff from spawning in the bubble column, and you won't get hit by lightning. So there's a lot of good reasons to build this. You can just bridge out from your main roof until you line yourself up with the AFK spot down below, and then just install yourself a little 5x5 roof or something. And then, of course, you need to place 1 torch on it. And congratulations, that is one entire side of the farm completely done. But now you need to build a secondary side if you want the full rates of the farm. So you can go to this time in the video right here and simply expand out your water stream. And then all the steps are exactly identical for both sides of the farm. And that is all there is to it. And that's basically what it should look like once both sides are fully installed, and it's going to take you quite a while to do that. And of course, both of the lower water streams connect to the same storage system, and the water just ends up right in the middle there. So as you can see, it's a fairly simple expansion. You just need to build the entire farm over again. So good luck, I guess. And the last thing to do is to install your tridents on the Trident killers, and make sure that you have impaling 5 on your tridents. What you want to do is you want to look away from your trapdoor and then throw it at that upper one, and then you're simply going to flick it, and that is going to properly align the trident onto the very far edge there. That way, when the Trident killer is on, all those guys die basically instantly. And then of course you need to do that on the other side as well. So throw that trident, flick the trapdoor, and you're good to go. If we put down a temporary lever right here, you can see just how quickly all those guys die. It's actually really efficient. And of course, all of our items get separated out properly and go to our storage system, and all the experience goes directly up to the player. And of course, when you're AFK, make sure that you're standing in the corner of your glass panes and holding yourself a looting 3 sword. If you're not holding looting 3, you're going to get significantly fewer rates. And of course, go ahead and flick on that lever, and then all of your creepers will be dying basically instantly. We have the phantom protection roof directly above us, so you can stand here and AFK for as long as you want. Subscribe for more Bedrock tutorials, and thanks for watching.